Having unpacked James for the last 7 weeks, it seems a shame to say goodbye to him, doesn't it? But I'm hoping that we've managed to pick up some little gems of wisdom to help us in our daily living. And so he finishes his letter about prayer and about faith. From chapter 5, verse 13. If any one of you is troubled, he should pray. If anyone happy, let him sing songs of praise. Is any one of you sick, he should call the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well, and the Lord will raise him up. And he closes by saying, my brothers and sisters, let's pretend he's inclusive. If one of you should wander from the truth and someone should bring them back, remember this. Whoever turns a sinner from the error of their ways will save them from death and cover a multitude of sins. In all things pray. Those who bring back those who have fallen away will help them in all things. Prayer in the Old Testament and prayer in the New Testament are quite different concepts. We come across a lot of lamentation, a lot of sadness, a lot of repenting in the Old Testament. And the focus is on the petition with God, the appealing to God for law-based activity, asking for earthly blessing, or, not quite so Old Testament, issues around national diversity and deliverance. It's good to know it's still the same 3,000-4,000 years ago as it is today. Whereas New Testament is more rooted in grace and love and a personal relationship between us and God, which is why it's surprising we find in Numbers that they're told that they should use that blessing that we still use today. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift the light of his countenance upon you and know his peace. But I think it's really interesting that James doesn't just talk about prayer, but prayer of faith. There's a fantastic story I remember hearing when I was training about an African town, a settlement. And they were really struggling because their crops were failing. In fact, they were all dying because they had no water. So they agreed they were going to have a town meeting as to what they were going to do. And so they invited everyone from the town to come together. And I can only assume they were Methodists because this meeting resulted in them planning another meeting. So they must have been Methodists. But they decided the best way forward was to have a prayer meeting, that everyone should be encouraged to come and to petition God to make the rains come so that the land would be livable, they would have water to drink, and their animals and their crops and themselves would stay alive. And so the day came for the grand prayer meeting, and everyone arrived in the middle of the village. You can almost imagine, can't you, all of the kind of straw huts, and they're all standing in the dirt in the middle of the village, and there was one boy that stood out from the crowd. And this one boy stood out from the crowd because he had brought with him something that made everybody else laugh. What had he brought with him? A Bible, good suggestion, but no. An umbrella. He came with an umbrella in his hand, and everybody laughed at him. And they said to him, "It hasn't rained for 6 months. Why have you brought an umbrella?" And he said, "Because we're praying for rain, and God is going to hear us. I'm not getting wet." I wonder how many of us pray to God with an umbrella. I wonder how many of us have The faith to think that when we ask of something that God will answer. If you're happy, pray. If you're sad, pray. If you're sick, pray. In all things, bring them to God. It's not always an easy thing to do, is it? Sometimes we don't have the words. We just say, I'm here, God, and I've got my umbrella. I can't do any more. There are challenging situations that we all go through in our church communities, in our individual lives, in our national life, and indeed throughout the world. But James teaches us that we should have faith in God, that when we ask, we are heard, and we should expect results. We have explored James and learned a lot about what we should and shouldn't say, about how we should and shouldn't live our lives, how we shouldn't judge others, how we should put God first. But I wonder how faith-filled we are. Many of us may not pray on our knees in front of our bed before we go to bed each night, although I know some people do. We can pray in a whole host of different ways, but the important thing is we know that we are heard. So friends, my challenge to you today as we finish James is this. Are we a faith-filled people? And when we ask things of God, are we ready with our umbrellas? Thanks be to God. Amen.